I'd like to introduce another MEP who's come over to speak, Bruno Gollnisch. He's an MEP. He's Vice President of the Front National, and he is also the President of the AENM. So thank you, Bruno.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry because my broken English is not so good, so I prepared a speech. I hope it won't be too long. First of all, I would like to thank all the organizers of this conference, and especially my close friend Nick Griffin for inviting me. It's a great pleasure and an honor for me to be here. It will be useful to talk about the situation inside each of our European countries. But in fact, the actual perspective, and I deplore it, shows that our problems are mutual and prevail all over Europe now. This is why I would say a few words about what happens within the institutions of the European Union that has been rightfully described as the European Soviet Union. It's really important to have a real weight within Europe and to defend our identities and values as best as we can. That I do hope that Nick and other persons from the BNP will be re-elected to this parliament. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you must know that today, in each and every of the 28 European countries, the large majority of the adopted legislation each year by the national parliaments, your House of Commons, for example, the House of Lords, that's nothing but the translation, the mere, I don't know if we can say that in English, transposition of European texts. It is then in Brussels and in Strasbourg that a first row of resistance must be organized against the most absurd and noxious texts ever imagined by Brussels bureaucrats. This is why nationalists of Europe must link their efforts and organize themselves to recreate both a political network and then, I hope, a parliamentary group capable of have their voice heard from all peoples of Europe. Like all patriots, our political struggle is to defend our national identities, but we also fight for the defense of the true European values which founded our civilization. This European identity lies on common ethnic, I dare to say so, linguistic, cultural, and spiritual fundamentals. These characteristics have created a geographically limited territory with precise external borders. Logically, consequently, Europe can only be widened to other European countries sharing the same ethnical heritage, culture, civilization, and influence of Christian spirituality and not Muslim Sharia, obviously. As you very probably know, we stand for independence towards the globalist financial powers, the medias, the stateless lobbies and multinationals. Independence towards Washington's policy as long as it is serving the interests of the globalization project and not at all of American people. We stand for the right for each state to decide what is allowed or not inside its borders. How many people from abroad do we or do we not welcome? what kind of products we are ready to compete with, and others that will meet trade barriers. What kind of funds we are allowed to invest to buy our factories, our industries, our national wealth. In a word, it is the right for each state to decide what is allowed or not inside its borders, which people, which product, or which capital, in a sense, the right of self-determination. These elementary points, a part of which are the principles of the European Patriots, are those we need to rise again in the next campaigns to come. And these very simple, very moderate, very rational ideas disturb, as you know. Not really because they were told to be extremist, but because they are unbearable for the globalists of all kinds, such as these so-called Christian Democrats. I'm not sure that they are Democrats, and I'm quite sure they are not Christian at all. Social Democrats, I could say the same, and all other liberals. It's unbearable for them to hear a systematic reminder of the existence and the interests of the people and nations of Europe first. I would like to make clear that by refusing the new Eurocratic or Euro-globalist superstate that they are building now, against the will of the people, we are not anti-European at all. Indeed, we are the only one to remain faithful of the true spirit and genius of Europe. For, in human history, Europe has been the place where was invented the freedom and equality of all nations, which I will maybe develop tonight. In spite of that, our parliaments, your parliament, my parliament, voted for the waiving of our national independence in favor of the European Union, meaning the end of a multi-secular independence of 15 centuries, preserved at the cost of huge sacrifices made by our ancestors at the price of their blood. I do not need to remind you about the process of the Lisbon Treaty. The British people were not allowed to decide by referendum. The French voted against, they voted against the European Constitution. But the European Constitution and the Lisbon Treaty is exactly the same thing. The Lisbon Treaty that came after, according to the words, I would say to the dictate of the German Chancellor, Mrs. Merkel, who told it in English, by the way, after the failure of the European Constitution rejected by the referendum of the French people and the Dutch people, she said, let us keep the substance and change the wording. And that's exactly what they did. I do not need to describe the consequences in the field of immigration, in the field of the economy, the alleged liberalization of the services of Europe will draw millions of wages to the bottom line. In the same time, the European Central Bank control more in France or in the Eurozone than for you, but still, they aim to control our finances, our economy, our social policy. without any possible guidance nor control, neither from the authorities of the member states, nor even from the European political institutions. The conditions of membership within the European Union have been so widened that tomorrow countries of Central Asia, Maghreb, of the Middle East could meet the requirements and become members. In the case of Turkey in particular, with whom one continues to negotiate its accession with the support of the globalists who found a way to destroy our native European identity. Today, it is more than ever necessary that the Patriots meet again and join hands with people like you who are not hypnotized by multiculturalism or miscegenation that are the foundations of liberals' modern religion, nor by globalization destroying our identities. The Patriots must fight for themselves in a mutual way. Patriots from Europe, patriots from outside Europe. And I'm glad also here to meet again my friend Adam Walker, with whom we were all together with Jean-Marie Le Pen, with persons representing various nationalist movements in Europe, in Japan. And with a fantastic audience. I never saw more journalists than when we were there for a conference invited by our Japanese friends, because there are a lot of people, even in Asia, even in Africa, even in Northern or Southern America, who understand perfectly that by defending our national identities, we also implicitly defend yours. That's why yes, we must let this struggle for the survival of our nations and the survival of our civilization, one, I would say, the most brilliant than has never existed in world history. It's not only necessary, it's also possible. That's why I will allow myself to conclude with the own words of the honorary president of my party, Jean-Marie Le Pen, patriots of all countries unite. Thank you very much.